The impossible challenge. The Galactic Assessment Initiative's orbital station hung like a massive crystalline spider in the void, its gleaming appendages stretching across the darkness of space. For millennia, it had served as the ultimate gatekeeper, determining which species were worthy of joining the Galactic Council. Of the thousands of civilizations tested, only 27 had ever passed. Humanity wasn't supposed to be number 28. Commander Maya Chen stood alone in the preparation chamber, her breath steady despite the pressure weighing on her shoulders. 6 billion lives, the entire human race, depended on her performance today. Earth had achieved faster-than-light travel just 15 years ago, a mere instant in cosmic terms. Most species took centuries to reach this point after discovering FTL capability, but humans had been fast-tracked through the qualification process for reasons no one fully understood. "It is time, Earth representative," came the melodic, multi-tone voice through the chamber's communication system. The words somehow conveyed both beautiful harmony and cold disinterest. Maya straightened her shoulders beneath the form-fitting environmental suit that Earth's best scientists had designed for this moment. The suit, a marvel of human ingenuity, incorporated dozens of experimental technologies, though she knew it would likely be considered primitive by the standards of the beings waiting for her. The door dissolved into particles of light, revealing a vast circular chamber. 7 beings, each representing one of the founding species of the Galactic Council, sat in a semicircle of elevated platforms. Their forms varied wildly. One appeared to be composed entirely of shifting geometric patterns of light. Another resembled a massive coral formation with hundreds of tiny appendages in constant motion. A third was a towering insectoid with compound eyes that refracted light like living prisms. At the center sat the assessment director, a being from the Vril species. It resembled a translucent humanoid figure filled with swirling cosmic nebulae, its skin revealing what looked like galaxies and star clusters in miniature. Human. The director's voice filled the chamber without seeming to come from any particular direction. "You understand that you represent your entire species in this assessment?" "I do," Maya replied, her voice calm and clear. A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the council members. "Your species has barely mastered gravitic propulsion," noted the crystalline being to the director's right. "Most candidates require at least 5 centuries of post-FTL development before attempting the assessment. And yet here she stands," said another counselor, this one appearing as a constantly shifting column of blue-green vapor. "The rules permit any species that achieves FTL capability to send a representative. The human meets the minimum criteria." The director's star-filled form shifted slightly. "The assessment has 3 phases, designed to test the limits of biological endurance, cognitive capability, and ethical framework. No single being has ever completed all 3 phases in the history of the initiative. The previous 27 species who gained council membership did so by reaching predetermined thresholds within each phase." Maya absorbed this information with outward calm, though her mind raced. No one had told Earth's diplomatic team that the test was literally impossible to complete in full. "The first phase will begin now," the director announced. "The Mindscape Challenge." The chamber around Maya dissolved, replaced by an endless white void. Her body seemed to dematerialize, consciousness expanding into the whiteness. This was the Mindscape, a constructed reality where the council could directly test her cognitive capabilities. Suddenly, complex mathematical equations appeared around her, forming a 3-dimensional lattice. Each equation seemed to shift and change as she observed it, becoming more complex the longer she focused. Maya recognized the pattern immediately. The equations weren't just tests. They were alive in a sense, evolving in response to her attempts to solve them. Most species would approach this methodically, attempting to solve each equation in sequence. Instead, Maya looked for the pattern connecting them. Her background in quantum mechanics and nonlinear mathematics had prepared her for thinking beyond traditional problem-solving approaches. "Interesting approach, human," came the director's voice from everywhere and nowhere. Most species attempt to solve each problem individually. Maya didn't respond, focusing instead on identifying the metastructure of the equations. They weren't meant to be solved. They were meant to be harmonized, brought into a state of elegant equilibrium. As this realization crystallized, the equations began to glow, the lattice transforming into a perfect geometric structure that pulsed with energy. The void rippled, and a new challenge appeared. A series of shifting mazes that reconfigured themselves continuously, each more complex than the last. Again, Maya approached the problem unconventionally. Rather than trying to navigate each maze, she identified the algorithmic rules governing their transformations. "Your species thinks in unusual patterns," observed one of the council members, voice tinged with what might have been curiosity. Challenge after challenge appeared in the mindscape. Impossible puzzles, paradoxical constructs, problems with seemingly no solution. For each, Maya found an approach that bypassed conventional logic. Where others would have sought perfect solutions, she found workable compromises. Where others would have analyzed endlessly, she made intuitive leaps. "Enough," announced the director after what felt like both moments and eternity. "The first phase is complete." The white void faded, and Maya found herself back in the chamber, facing the council. Several of them were communicating in what appeared to be encrypted light patterns, clearly discussing her performance. "The human has achieved a score of 78.3 on the cognitive assessment," announced the director, above the minimum threshold of 75. A murmur of surprise rippled through several council members. "No species has passed the first phase on their initial attempt in over 6,000 years, noted the crystalline being. The director's cosmic form shimmered. "We proceed to the second phase. Environmental extremes." The floor beneath Maya's feet transformed into a transparent platform. Below it, a chamber came into view, a hellscape of constantly changing environmental conditions. Even from her position, she could see zones of extreme heat adjacent to areas of near absolute zero. Gravity wells formed and collapsed randomly, while the atmospheric composition shifted from corrosive acid to vacuum in seconds. "This chamber simulates the most extreme conditions found throughout the galaxy," explained the director. "No biological entity is expected to survive all conditions. The test measures adaptability and endurance. The average candidate survives 3.7 minutes. The current record is 12.8 minutes, held by the Drax Collective." Maya's mouth went dry, but she kept her expression neutral. "I understand. Your species has evolved on a relatively stable, temperate world," noted one of the counselors, a being resembling a floating collection of metallic spheres connected by arcs of electricity. "You have experienced only a narrow band of possible environmental conditions." "True," Maya acknowledged, "but we've learned to adapt quickly." The transparent platform descended, bringing Maya into the Chamber of Horrors. The moment her feet touched the ground, her suit's sensors went wild, detecting rapidly changing conditions in every direction. Maya took a deep breath and began to move. Her suit, Earth's greatest technological achievement, was about to face its ultimate test. A wave of heat exceeding 5,000 degrees Celsius rolled toward her. Instead of retreating, Maya activated the suit's plasma shielding and stepped directly into the inferno. The suit's cooling system strained but held, its outer layer ablating slightly but maintaining structural integrity. "Remarkable resilience," observed one of the counselors, voice tinged with surprise. Maya didn't waste time celebrating. She'd survived the first obstacle, but dozens more awaited. A gravity well formed to her left, powerful enough to crush her into atomic paste. She used the suit's gravitic repulsors to skirt the edge of the well, using its pull to slingshot herself across the chamber. As she flew through the air, a zone of absolute zero approached. Maya activated the suit's thermal recirculators, which captured the residual heat from the earlier inferno and used it to maintain core temperature. "The human is using environmental extremes against each other," noted the crystalline being. "A primitive but effective approach." For nearly 10 minutes, Maya navigated the hellscape, her suit's systems gradually failing as it encountered condition after impossible condition. When the gravitational repulsors failed, she used momentum and timing to avoid crushing gravity. When atmospheric filters clogged with corrosive particles, she held her breath and moved through vacuum zones to clear them. At 11 minutes, the suit's primary power failed. Maya switched to manual backups, using mechanical systems that required physical exertion to operate. Most species surrender when technological systems fail, observed the director, genuine curiosity in its voice. Maya didn't respond, focusing all her energy on survival. Her muscles burned with exertion, lungs heaving as she manually operated the suit's life support. At 12 minutes, she passed the Drax Collective's record. The council members had fallen silent, all attention focused on her struggle. At 15 minutes, the director's voice cut through the chamber. Enough. The second phase is complete. The environmental extremes deactivated, leaving Maya standing in an empty chamber, her suit in tatters, its outer layers partially dissolved, heat shields melted, and power systems dead. She was operating on the most basic mechanical backups, her body drenched in sweat, but still alive. The platform rose, bringing her back to face the council. 15 minutes and 22 seconds, announced the director, its cosmic form shifting with what might have been agitation. A new record. Maya stood straight despite her exhaustion, meeting the director's galaxy-filled gaze. We proceed to the final phase. The director announced, the impossible choice. Humanity's finest hour. The chamber transformed once more, this time into what appeared to be a simplified control room. Before Maya stood a console with two large buttons, one red, one blue. The final test is one of ethical framework and decision-making, explained the director. Before you is a scenario with no correct answer. A holographic display activated, showing two distant star systems. Each contained a thriving civilization with billions of sentient beings. These are real-time feeds from the Nylar and Thaxu systems, the director continued. Both face imminent destruction from different cosmic phenomena. The Nylar system will be consumed by a hypernova within hours. The Thaxu system faces collision with a wandering black hole. Maya studied the displays, her heart sinking as she realized what was coming. The red button will divert sufficient resources to save the Nylar civilization. The blue button will do the same for the Thaxu. There are no resources to save both. You must choose which civilization lives and which perishes. Murmurs ran through the council as they watched for her reaction. These are actual civilizations? Maya asked, voice tight. Not simulations. Correct, confirmed the director. The Galactic Council cannot save everyone. This test confronts you with the reality of cosmic governance. Sometimes, choices must be made that result in terrible loss. There is no perfect answer. The test measures how you approach an impossible ethical dilemma. Maya studied the displays showing both civilizations. The Nylar appeared to be insectoid beings with a highly structured society. Billions of individuals moving in perfect coordination across thousands of worlds. The Thaxu were what appeared to be energy beings, their civilization built around massive crystalline structures that harnessed the power of their sun. How much time do I have to decide? She asked. There is no time limit, replied the director. But indecision results in both civilizations perishing. Maya approached the console, studying both buttons. Then she looked up at the council. I reject the premise of this test, she said firmly. Surprise rippled through the council members. Explain, demanded the director, its cosmic form darkening slightly. You've presented a false dichotomy, Maya said. Two buttons, two outcomes. But there are always more options. There are no other options programmed into this test, the director stated. The resources available can only save one civilization. Maya nodded. Within your parameters, yes. But humans have a long history of redefining parameters when faced with impossible choices. She turned to the console and began examining it more closely. Your test assumes that resources are fixed and methods of salvation are known. but innovation often occurs under the pressure of necessity. To the Council's evident surprise, Maya began disassembling the console, exposing its internal mechanisms. Her fingers moved with precision, despite her exhaustion from the previous test. "What is she doing?" asked one counselor. "Attempting to bypass the test parameters," replied another. "A violation of—" "No," interrupted the director, its voice thoughtful. "The test measures ethical framework and decision-making. There were no restrictions placed on method." Maya continued working, reconfiguring circuits and rerouting power flows. In human history, we've faced many supposedly binary choices. We've learned that creative solutions often emerge when we refuse to accept limited options. After several minutes of work, Maya stepped back from the modified console. Both buttons now glowed purple. "I've reconfigured your system to distribute resources differently," she explained. "Instead of fully saving one civilization at the expense of the other, this will allocate resources to save the most vulnerable populations of both. Approximately 30% of each civilization can be evacuated with the resources available." She pressed the newly configured button. The holographic displays showed evacuation procedures beginning in both systems, focusing on the youngest members of each species and their caretakers, along with essential knowledge repositories. The council chamber fell silent. "That was not one of the anticipated outcomes," the director finally said. "No civilization should be judged more worthy of survival than another," Maya replied. "And no single representative should bear the burden of such a choice. If resources are truly limited, then we share both the burden and the salvation as equally as possible." The director's cosmic form seemed to expand slightly. "An interesting solution. In 173,000 years, no candidate has attempted to reconfigure the test itself." "Because they all accepted your premise," Maya said. "Humans question premises." The council members exchanged what appeared to be complex communications in various forms: light patterns, chemical emissions, electromagnetic pulses. Finally, the director spoke. "The assessment is complete. The council will deliberate." Maya was escorted to a waiting chamber, where she collapsed into a chair, the full weight of her exhaustion finally hitting her. Hours passed before she was summoned back. The council chamber had transformed again. Now it resembled a formal assembly hall, with the 7 council members positioned in a full circle, with an empty 8th position. "Commander Maya Chen of Earth," began the director, its voice resonating throughout the chamber. "The Galactic Assessment Initiative has existed for 173,000 years. In that time, 27 species have been admitted to the Council." The director's cosmic form seemed to brighten. "Today, that number becomes 28. Maya felt her heart leap in her chest, but maintained her composure. "Your performance in the assessment was unprecedented," continued the director. "You achieved the highest cognitive score of any first-attempt candidate. You set a new endurance record in the environmental testing. And you are the first candidate in our history to reject the parameters of the impossible choice." The crystal being spoke next. "We designed the 3rd test to have no solution. The purpose was to observe how a species approaches no-win scenarios. Some choose based on logical calculation of value. Others use random selection to avoid moral burden. None have ever refused to accept the parameters of the choice itself. Humans are stubborn that way," Maya said with a small smile. "We don't like being told something is impossible. A trait that may prove valuable to the Council," acknowledged the director. "The galaxy faces challenges that have defied our collective wisdom for millennia. Perhaps a fresh perspective is needed." The director gestured, and a document materialized before Maya. The formal invitation for Earth to join the Galactic Council. "Humanity is young," the director said. "Impulsive, unpredictable. Many council members expressed concerns about admitting such an untested species. And yet," added another counselor, "these very traits enabled you to pass tests designed to be impossible." Maya accepted the document, its surface shimmering with embedded data that would formalize Earth's new status in galactic civilization. On behalf of humanity, I accept this invitation with gratitude and humility, she said. We have much to learn from the Council, but I believe we also have much to contribute. The director's cosmic form pulsed with what might have been approval. The Council anticipates your contributions with interest, Commander Chen. Particularly your species' apparent ability to find third options where others see only two. As Maya prepared to return to Earth with news that would forever change human history, she reflected on the tests she had faced. The Galactic Council had created challenges they believed were impossible to fully overcome, only to discover that impossible held a different meaning for humans. It wasn't superior strength or intelligence that had earned humanity its place among the stars. It was the distinctly human unwillingness to accept limitations, the stubborn insistence that there must be another way. As she boarded the ship that would take her home, Maya smiled. Humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning, and if today was any indication, the galaxy wasn't ready for what was coming. The impossible, it seemed, was just another human specialty.